Let's take a look at the mind according to Ayurveda. Well, a baby is born with very few preconceived ideas. I'm watching my 4-month-old little John right now try to figure out how to use his legs. And his motions are pretty much like twitching motions right now. He can't smoothly move his leg like the way a calligrapher could move their hand in writing beautiful text. His motion's very jerky. So he's still learning how to use his muscles and still learning, what his hand is. I watched him look at his hand the other day, and he was just staring at his hand, like amazed that his hand was a part of himself, right? So he knows very little about the world, and he has very few preconceived ideas. But gradually, through life experiences, little John will form a picture of reality. And that will form his mind into a particular kind of mind, a unique mind, with a unique set of beliefs. And so that's called a conditioned mind. Like Pavlov's dogs learning when the food is coming by listening to the sound of the bell. It's a famous experiment in the psychology industry. Anyway, infants are born with few preconceived ideas, but then their beliefs become calcified over time. And so eventually it forms a person's personality, and it forms their temperament. So Sankhya sees these discoveries as a person acquires knowledge through experiences. Sankhya sees these discoveries as a loss of perspective, as a kind of fall from spiritual grace, so to speak, that the mind has become stuck in what it has learned. And I find that, very interesting that Sankhya says we should just throw out, what we've learned in a way. To become this, to have this sort of mind of the baby. So, yeah, does Sankhya say we should throw away everything we learned in order to have this grander perspective? The orthodox position of that is yes. So, Sankhya's goal is to seek this sort of natural state of the self. And if you talk with people who believe in Sankhya, they'll be like, yeah, so I got to get back to my true nature, which basically means your nature before any experiences have tainted it. Like the mind of a baby is an untainted mind, untainted by experience, a fully plastic mind. That's what Sankhya says we have to get to. Now, of course, the opposite of that is that we should learn as much as we can about reality, and we should form the mind instead of unforming the mind. So Sankhya aims to erase the mind and ego with its illusion of separateness and to go back to the choiceless passive state of watching as that eye, that all-seeing eye. Yeah. So what about you? Do you want to erase your mind? Have no mind at all and just be a witness or just be a watcher? It's true that personality and temperament have such a heavy influence on lifestyle and behavior, and those things are important to study. Temperament is inherited, but also cultivated through habits. So we want to make sure the habits that we're cultivating are going to create a virtuous temperament, a virtuous personality. In Ayurveda, each person has a physical body type or constitution, which is the 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. But also Ayurveda says that each person has a mental constitution made up of their what's called their manas prakruti, or in each of the 3 types are Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and so this is another area where Sankhya has influenced Ayurveda, which is in the idea of your temperament being expressed as Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. And have you ever heard of somebody say that they have a sattvic diet? And if you hung around yogis long enough, or you've lived in India, you probably have heard somebody say this. Because there are lots of yogis that try to eat a sattvic diet and live a sattvic lifestyle. You may even heard of a Brahmin, all right, a kind of person in one of the higher castes of India, social castes of India, the top of the social hierarchy of India, that they eat a sattvic diet, for example. And I put a picture here of a person who is trying to live a sattvic lifestyle. And you see that they seem kind of peaceful. They're wearing white, pure white clothing. Looks very clean and in a beautiful environment with lots of sunshine. So a sattvic mind has some of those qualities. That a mind that's focused on awareness, which in Sankhya is considered to be the most holy kind of personality, the most sacred kind of personality. So Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are ancient spiritual terms from the Vedas, from ancient Vedic texts, and it's a part of Sankhya philosophy. And so Charaka, as I mentioned, the father of Ayurveda, has integrated some of this into the Ayurvedic chapter on the mind, which is natural because that's the culture that Charaka comes from. So Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas form 3 of the 24 principles of Sankhya philosophy. And so we're now down here in Sankhya's map, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, getting lower in the map here. And what is Tamas? Is inertia, dullness, sleep, and darkness. So Sankhya is all about consciousness, and so Tamas is kind of the opposite of that. Tamas is basically all physical matter and substances, like a rock can't think. So that's kind of at the low end of the spiritual hierarchy. Reality itself is at the low end, and at the upper end is consciousness itself. So Tamas is sort of the opposite of consciousness. And then there's Rajas, which is all about momentum, desire, and action, and passion, enthusiasm, and movement is the second temperament. And this temperament is characterized by willfulness, activity, impulse, and initiative. And finally, there's Sattva, which, as you know, is the one that Sankhya says is the best. And, whenever, you see a picture of something sattvic, it's always shown as being more beautiful and things like that. That a sattvic person is characterized as conscious and aware, which is the main goal of Sankhya. So one way of looking at it is that the sattvic person watches these internal impulses of Rajas and Tamas happening inside of them, and then it chooses between the two. Sattva is the person who's aware enough to choose between these two states without getting stuck in one or the other. Not getting stuck in hyperactivity and not getting stuck in sloth and lack of activity. Sattvic people in Sankhya are seen as being above all the drama. So people who have a lot of drama and difficult emotions often study like how to be more sattvic because they're trying to get over all that drama.